Welcome in, everyone. Happy Tier List Tuesday. Today, we're going to be doing a really fun tier list on Overwatch heroes ranked upon usefulness in the zombie apocalypse. Now, as far as rule sets go, this tier list is not going to have insane amounts of rules. It's not going to count canonically how each hero performs lore-wise. We're just going to base these heroes based upon their gameplay. So whatever goes gameplay wise currently as of today for what season are we in? Season 11, almost season 12. So currently how characters perform is going to be how useful they are in a zombie apocalypse. So with that being said, S tier is going to be the hard carry tier. I think we're just going to do 3 tiers. So I think what we're going to do is A tier being a solid choice, and B tier being you're cooked. So each character is going to be how they perform in game. So obviously in a zombie apocalypse, you want to have great utility. You want to have good survivability. You also want to have good offensive output, but you also might want to have good stealth. I think as far as zombie apocalypse goes, I think we're going to judge based upon your average zombie that you see in, like, let's say like The Walking Dead. So they can't really run for the most part. I also didn't watch Walking Dead until late seasons because I thought that show was kind of garbage, but that's my personal take. Don't hate on me too much in the comments. But as far as this goes, zombies can't really run for the most part. If you get bit, you're pretty much cooked. They travel in hordes, so on and so forth. Number 1 on this tier list, we have Bastion. I mean, what can I say? Bastion is not a human. Bastion is literally a massive tank. He has bombs. He has his turret form where he absolutely mows everything down. I think Bastion would absolutely be a hard carry. Now, if you're trying to sneak around, I would say Bastion is not so strong, but also, like, it's Bastion, You don't need to sneak around. You are going to be the person who ends the zombie apocalypse because there will be none left by the time you and Bastion are done with it. Cassidy. I think Cassidy would be, well, now this is hard because of his ultimate. I think he would be a solid choice. The thing about Cassidy is he could be viewed as a hard carry because of Deadeye. That's a pretty strong ultimate. But I think here's the problem with Cassidy. Cassidy has to charge up his ultimate, so if he's not in like a really strong position and he hasn't been charging Deadeye, he might get bit and be cooked. He also has to reload after 6 bullets, so if there's more than, a lot more than 6 zombies. Is it 6 or 8 bullets? I don't remember. 6, 7, or 8. Either way, I think he's strong, but he is not like the strongest, I don't know, I think D.Va would be kind of a hard carry. It's a really interesting character because there's 2 sides of her. There's the mech and then the baby. I think the thing about the mech is she has really great movement. She flies pretty far. I mean, what zombie's gonna be able to like catch D.Va flying up onto like a rooftop or something, let's say? So number 1, that's pretty crazy. Number 2, D.Va doesn't have to reload on her main fire. So I think like for the most part, zombies will be cooked from that. If D.Va somehow manages to get like beat up and demeched, she has her nuke, which like if we're comparing this to how she plays gameplay wise, her D.Va bomb does not affect any of her teammates. So you wouldn't really blow up. So if we're talking about like, if this were realistic, you probably wouldn't want D.Va on your team because like the nuke is not that helpful. But I would say because we're judging this gameplay wise, I think D.Va bomb is really strong and pretty hard carry. Now, obviously, if she gets demech, that kind of sucks, but I feel like she still has a gun and would operate like a human. I think to demech her, it would take a lot, especially considering her mobility plus her infinite ammo plus her micro missiles. Plus, she would still have a free remech, so I think you'd be pretty fine. B tier, Genji. I don't think there'd be a lot of heroes that you'd be cooked with, because I think a lot of these heroes are... I think I might rename these. I don't think there's going to be a lot of you're cooked, so I think we'll do less useful. Because I really don't think there's any characters that would be useless in the apocalypse. I think for Genji, he is an Omnic. I just don't think his Shuriken would be that helpful and being a melee hero. He would be pretty stealthy though, so he could be good at like fetching things, scoping places out. I think with that being said, he would be a solid choice because he couldn't really get bit. He does have Dragon Blade, which is very strong, so he could clear hordes. He just wouldn't be like the strongest ever. But then again, you could say that when he eliminates things in game, he gets his dash back, so he could be he could be pretty crazy, dashing, killing everything. So I think he'd be a pretty solid choice though. I don't think he'd be like, let's say a hard carry, but I do think he'd be pretty freaking solid. Hanzo. I think Hanzo would be our first less useful. Now hear me out. Arrows are really good because they're not loud, so they don't attract attention. So you could make an argument for that. His ultimate is very strong, but I think if we were to like put a rank of heroes, I think Hanzo would be our first less useful because his fire rate, not being able to deal with massive amounts of enemies. I think also his ultimate firing in a straight line, that is helpful, but if you're dealing with like a horde that's all over the place, you're not really gonna like be able to get out in like a pinch. Now, I'm not saying he's bad. Less useful. I think there's not a bad hero in this game that would be like useless, but I do think he would not be as useful. Junkrat. I think Junkrat is kind of a hard hero because if we're talking about like, if this were like the Overwatch world and nothing's destructible, I think like Junkrat would be fine. I think the problem is though, he deals with a lot of bombs and he would be very like useful with masses, but I'm actually going to put him in less useful. And I feel like I'm going to catch a lot of hate for this one because I mean, Tire is really good. His bombs are AoE. This is also like utility. You know, if you have this guy who just specializes in bombs, you're literally gonna blow like everything up. D.Va can do things other than explode things, you know what I mean? And I feel like Junkrat would not be as useful because of also his temperament. I think he would definitely be very loud and do stupid things that get you into trouble. So we're also taking into account how characters are emotionally, and I think Junkrat would definitely be less useful because of how he would get you into bad predicaments because of the way that he thinks. So unfortunately, I think Junkrat would be less useful. Now, obviously, if you're talking about wiping out hordes, he would be an S tier. But I think that because we're talking about utility and survival and sneaking around, I think Junkrat is not as good at the other things. Yeah, he's like not bad, but a guy that only deals with bombs can only be so useful. You know, there's other things you're going to need help with. Lucio is interesting because we are going to talk about gameplay. So he can technically heal people, but if you get bit, you're cooked. So, I mean, that's, you know, not very good. I think if we're talking about like Lucio himself, I don't know, he shoots things, he boops things, and he has sound barrier. But I feel like the problem is like, I don't think he'd be as useful. Also, like, what if his technology runs out of power? Is there a power source? I mean, I guess you could say that for every hero, so we'll take that out of the equation. But like, I don't know, a guy who's based upon music is also going to be very loud. I mean, yes, guns and stuff are loud too, but like, imagine you're like, hey dude, I need some healing. Like, I tripped and scraped my knee. And he's like, oh yeah, let me help you out with that. And then like, all of the zombies now know where you are because like, he's healing you with his like sick beats. Like, yeah, I'm sure your life would not be boring with a Lucio around because like, he'd be a DJ, like, hey dude, remix me some Lana Del Rey or Chappell Roan, we'll be good to go. But like, no, I don't know, I just don't think he'd be as useful. He would be useful to a speed boost against slow zombies. Okay, you are right about that. These are not ordered, by the way. I probably should be ordering them. Okay, you are right, speed boost would be useful, but I think that would put him higher, but I don't know. I still think speed boost is helpful, but I do think that it still wouldn't be as useful as other abilities, in my honest opinion. Mei. Okay, this is hard. I think Mei, obviously freeze is helpful. It's not as effective as other ultimates in the game against zombies, but it would be helpful. She does have crowd control with her primary fire. But I think for me, I think Mei would be less useful normally, but I'm going to actually put her in solid choice. And here's my reason behind that. I think Mei would actually be incredibly useful because of her mind. She is incredibly intelligent. I mean, if you guys have seen the Mei cinematic, when she wakes up alone, she like invents these certain things to keep herself alive in this like frozen like winter storm, if that makes sense. She is a brilliant mind, and I do think that her inventions would be very helpful. She wouldn't be a hard carry, though, but she would be a solid choice, you know? Exactly. What if there's nowhere to run with speed boost? That's actually important, yeah. If there's nowhere to run with speed boost, you would be in trouble, yeah. Mercy, this one's a hot take. I think Mercy would be a hard carry. Hear me out. Mercy, first of all, she may not have the greatest offensive output compared to other heroes, but there's a couple things that I think are really useful about her. Number one, she's a combat medic, so you're pretty much guaranteed to have sustain, even without zombies involved. Number two, she has really good mobility. She's quiet, so she could sneak around. She's a brilliant mind. I think Mercy is a great inventor. I actually think she'd be a person who would invent the cure to the zombie apocalypse. But number two, she also has her blaster, which, yeah, let's say it doesn't deal a lot of damage in-game, but that's just gameplay balance-wise. Her blaster's not crazy compared to other healers or other heroes. But the thing about her is she also has flight. She also has damage boost, so maybe she's boosting other people's damage so she can increase effectiveness. But the big thing about Mercy's kit that I think everybody has to realize is a hard carry is Resurrect. That's a crazy ability. Comboing that with free flight, I mean, if you're talking about gameplay-wise, think about how broken Mercy would be in a real-life scenario. Oh shoot, you got bit and you die? Well, guess what? You get resurrected. Oh no, you accidentally like had a tragic accident. Like there's also accidents outside of the apocalypse with the zombies themselves. Like you could still injure yourself or whatever. You got a doctor that can resurrect you every 30 seconds. Hello, 30 seconds is kind of a short amount of time if you think about it. She would definitely be a hard carry. Increasing people's effectiveness, being able to heal people, being a brilliant mind, a great strategist. I think she would definitely be a hard carry. Now, she wouldn't be the biggest offensive hero, but you also think about the fact that she can fly with free flight and have her blaster. She could still deal pretty good damage. You also think about, with her mind, she could definitely figure out a way to develop more Valkyrie suits to give other people flight. So call me a Mercy fanboy, but I think that Mercy could figure out a way to give multiple people Valkyrie suits and teach them how to use it. And she could develop more technology and really, really be useful. So yeah, I think Mercy is a hard carry. Pharah, I think, would be a pretty hard carry. I mean, you could make the argument that she's like Junkrat, but I think that what really separates Pharah from Junkrat is her sanity and how she behaves. I think also having free flight is pretty big as well. Yes, her whole thing is explosions, so that does limit her. But for the sake of this video, I think free flight does change a lot, plus her sanity levels. That's my opinion. That's my opinion! Reaper, I think, would be a pretty solid choice. I think Reaper he's a pretty good hero. I think, like, being able to teleport, being able to turn, like, intangible, his shotguns are pretty useful. I think a shotgun against zombies is really helpful, and Death Blossom is insanely good. Reaper also seems to be a pretty good leader. I mean, you could say he's a hard carry, but maybe I'll move him up. But I think as far as right now goes, I think he's below Cassidy just because I think Deadeye is just way stronger and I think Cassidy would be easier to work with. But I think Reaper has some pretty good abilities that would keep him alive way better, which you could say that Reaper's more survivable than Cassidy, but Cassidy is more lethal than Reaper. So, I mean, that's interchangeable. Are we talking about survivability being better or lethality? Because survivability could be better, so Reaper could be higher up. I don't know. Teleportation is pretty strong, plus intangibility. That's pretty crazy, so I don't know. You tell me. They're both pretty strong, though. I mean, he could be considered a hard carry. I'd be willing to put these two back in hard carry. I think Reinhardt is a tough one. We can't really consider armor too. I mean, we can consider armor. That's the problem. Are we considering armor or not? Because if we're considering armor, a lot of heroes have armor. I think I'll put Reinhardt in solid choice. I think he'll be lower just because he's a melee hero. I feel like Reinhardt also he would definitely sacrifice himself like the Chad that he is. I think Shatter is very helpful. I think with his big shield and everything, he'd be able to hold off a lot of zombies. I just don't see him as a hard carry though. Like he definitely would be very strong, and Fire Strike is pretty strong and all that, but I think that for the sake of like, I don't know, I don't see him as being a hard carry. I mean, you could see any hero as being a hard carry depending on your perspective, but I think that compared to other heroes, I don't think Rein is as helpful because he's limited with his range and his mobility and how loud he is, you know? His biggest downfall is his loud ass steps. Yeah, absolutely. I think Rein is pretty loud, but I mean, like, not the loudest. He's not as loud as like Junkrat or Lucio might be. I'm not saying Lucio couldn't be quiet, but like when your whole thing is based around music, having to speed boost people and heal people with your music, and your whole thing is about sound waves, you're gonna be loud. I don't know. I think Reinhardt is a solid choice. He's not bad, but there are better heroes. I think Roadhog would be less useful. So hear me out, chat. His whole thing is about hooking people close to him. You can't really hook a zombie close to you unless you want to risk your life. His ultimate is incredibly useful against zombies. I'll give him that. Take a breather wouldn't really reverse zombies. It would be helpful to keep him alive, but like, I think the problem with Roadhog is like, he is big and vulnerable. He's loud. He would be at risk of getting bit and like turning into a zombie. So that's my take. I think he's too close range. He can't really specialize in like sneaking around places. He can't really specialize in crazy mobility. So with that being said, I think that he wouldn't be as useful as other characters. I think Soldier 76 would be a solid choice. Maybe more than Reinhardt. Maybe not as much as Genji. I think Genji has great mobility and all that. I think the thing about Soldier is he is really good at quickly getting places. He can heal things up in a pinch. and he doesn't have to aim at times with his visor, but I think, and he also has some bombs, so he could be useful in a pinch of getting you in and out of places. You could also make a case that his bombs could be useful to like breaking open doors and stuff, so I mean, that's pretty good. I think he's pretty solid. I don't think he'd be like a hard character. I mean, I don't know, because you could think like he's like a combat trained like field specialist, so he could be very useful. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he would be more useful than Mei and stuff. I mean, he could be really good in survival. Yeah. It's hard because gameplay-wise, if you take out like the certain broken aspects of, let's say, Deadeye and stuff, I think Soldier would be more useful than Cass and Reaper because of his survival alone. But I think if we're incorporating gameplay, I think obviously Cass would be a little bit better. But you could also make a case that Soldier has better utility than Cass. See, that's the thing. Cass is really lethal, but maybe he lacks utility. Soldier has speed, he has explosions. I mean, Cass has an explosion too, so I guess you could say the same thing. So I don't know. Equal. Symmetra's hard because, like, she's another one of those brilliant minds that would be really helpful. Her hard light could be useful to walling things off, but if it's like gameplay, things can walk through her wall, so how useful is that really? I think Symmetra, it really is hard for me because she has like teleporters and stuff, but I think if we're comparing to Zombie Apocalypse, I think like her mind isn't enough when you compare the gameplay of other heroes and how they perform. If her wall actually held things out, it'd be, you know, helpful. I think her turrets are really nice because you technically could have protection while you're sleeping and all that kind of stuff, create choke points and survive. But I think if we're taking gameplay wise, I think Symmetra would be less useful than other heroes, but I'm not saying she'd be bad. I genuinely don't think there's a bad hero, but I think Symmetra would be less useful in my honest opinion. I think Torb would be a hard carry. Number one, he has a turret that doesn't run out of ammo and has extremely long range. That's pretty crazy. Number two, he has a shotgun and he has long range fire. That's pretty crazy. He has a self speed boost where he can amp himself up. That's pretty crazy. He's pretty small, so he could like theoretically fit into smaller places. He also can fix things like his turret. So he could fix other omnics, other things. He's like an inventor. He has a brilliant mind. I think Torb would be insanely good. I think he would really hard carry. I also think his ultimate, if you're talking about, you know, obviously this is a fake zombie apocalypse, so you can't talk about how realistic, you know, pouring lava on the ground is. But think about like crowd control, you know, pouring lava on the ground and preventing things from passing through. That's pretty crazy. I think that's nuts. I think Torb would be an absolute hard carry. I think even better than Pharah. I think you could make a case that he'd be better than these two as well because of his versatility. But yeah, you'd also be able to sleep a lot more with Torb around because his turret would absolutely be able to protect you while you sleep. I'm saying that she's less useful than her counterparts. Still useful. No, I agree. There's nothing that's useless. That's why it's less useful. She's still very useful, but if you compare like Torb, who has a turret that is like pretty much nearly infinite range, doesn't run out of ammo, which hers don't either, but it's longer range. Torb can fix it. He has the lava ultimate. He has a self-stim that makes him run faster. He also has a shotgun and a long-range fire. He also, the thing about him that makes him a little bit better than Sim is his ultimate. I think Sim, her wall is really nice, but zombies could walk through it because we're talking about gameplay-wise, and enemies can walk through her ultimate. So yeah, that's why that's there. Overall, I think Torb would be more useful, in my honest opinion. That's what I think. I think also him being able to, like, I don't know. There's a lot more nuance. I think if we're talking about lore-wise, obviously, I think Symmetra would actually be a lot higher, but this is gameplay. I think Tracer would be less useful. Now, hear me out. I think Tracer could be really good for a few reasons. She's incredibly mobile, so she'd be really hard for zombies to catch. She can technically recall, so, I mean, you could... Whoa, wait a minute. If Tracer gets bit, she could recall. That makes her broken. That makes her incredibly broken. I changed my mind. No, she doesn't have crazy crowd control, but I think what Tracer would make up for in, like, lack of, like, massive AoE abilities, I think Tracer would be very useful because she can sneak around places. She's very quiet and elusive. She could definitely scope out areas for you and recall if she gets into crazy trouble. And the fact that recall resets every, like, what, somewhere around 10 to 15 seconds, I think. Somewhere around there. That's actually incredibly useful. I lied. She'd be a hard carry. She'd be pretty crazy. I think Widow's hard because, like, she has good mobility with the grapple. She is a sniper, but I feel like she doesn't deal enough, like, long-range damage. She does have, like, a nice little, like, trap Now the thing about her, if you say gameplay wise, she would be able to see things through walls. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about Hanzo, which is like very helpful, but also like if you see them but you can't eliminate all of them, how good is that really? You know, it's helpful. That also could, guys, there's so many things that could be different. Hanzo, you could see things through walls, so yeah, Sonic Arrow could be pretty useful, which would make him higher than Lucio, even though Speed Boost is great. I don't know, guys, this is hard. You can't, like, there's too much to consider. But I would say, like, she's useful, she's good at sneaking around. I would say higher, I mean, Symmetra's turrets do hard carry, but you could also say Widow has her turret as well. I don't know, these are all pretty equal. I'm not gonna rank them too hard. Like, this is all for fun. She would be very useful, but like compared to other heroes, she does have to charge up to one-shot things and has a very weak primary fire. So, you know, her Venom probably wouldn't hurt zombies, right? Probably not, but it could be useful for like just guarding areas. I think Winston would be less useful. I'm sorry, guys. We're not considering all the crazy armor as much. It's helpful, but I think the thing about Winston is bubble wouldn't really be that helpful because zombies can walk through it. His ultimate is him literally meleeing things, so if he smacks a zombie, gets bit, he's cooked. Tesla Cannon's nice, but it's very short range. He's also very loud. He would be brilliant, and he would be somebody who'd probably work with like Mercy and Symmetra and stuff to come up with a cure and May, but I think for as far as like survivability goes, I don't think he'd be as helpful. That's my opinion. Next up would be Zarya. I think she'd be a solid choice. I don't think she'd be a hard carry, but I think she'd be pretty solid. I think the thing about Zarya is if she has her bubbles, they don't last very long. But like, I think the thing about Zarya is like, she can protect you if you're about to get bit. We're not factoring in the cleanse from her bubble because like, you can't really, it doesn't heal you, you know what I mean? And healing doesn't work. So I think her bubbles would be helpful. Grav would be really helpful in certain scenarios. I don't think it'd be as useful as other things because it doesn't like eliminate things. It might be helpful. I don't think it will be like a hard carry. I think she'd be strong though. She has like burst, like, or like explosive damage with her weapon. It's alternate fire. No, she'd be good, but she wouldn't be like the craziest hard carry. But also she is a strong woman. So strongest woman in the world would definitely be useful in a lot of scenarios. Just like, oh no, you can't get a door down. Well, guess what? She punches the door down, you know? She's crazy. I think she'd be pretty good. Wasteland Zarya would be great in Apocalypse. She'd be great, and that's why she's in solid choice, but I don't think she'd be a hard carry. She's limited by range. Her bubbles are limited by a couple seconds of being on somebody. I also think, like, there are more useful characters. I think Zenyatta would be helpful, but less useful. I think he would be lower than these guys, higher than these ones. I think Lucio could be higher than Winston just because of speed boost. I think same for Zenyatta. I think the thing about Zen is we're talking about healing does not cleanse zombie bites. He is an Omnic, so he would survive, which would be very helpful. But like, if you get bit, what is he gonna do? He's gonna now be alive without you. He obviously can heal you, which is nice. All supports have that added benefit. He would not be at risk of dying because of, you know, he's an Omnic, but like theoretically you come across a horde of zombies, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? He's gonna literally do nothing. Can he even be bit? No. So that's why he's not like the lowest. I think Omnics are very helpful, but like I think Ana would have good survival skills, but I don't think she'd be as useful. So there's a few things about Ana. She doesn't have good mobility. She's an old lady. She doesn't really deal good mass damage. I don't think Nano Boost would really save anybody's life if they're bit by a zombie. There's not really much she could do. I think the only reason why she's not lower, we have to keep in mind she was like one of the best snipers in the world. So obviously she's going to be able to mark things and like scout very well. Ana would be really smart. She would get you out of scenarios with her brain, but I think the only problem is like, what else is she gonna really do to help you, you know? Ana would be amazing. She has tons of combat experience. She doesn't have a lot of mobility. She's so slippery. Yeah, but when you're comparing to like actual like gameplay mobility, she is not mobile compared to other characters. Like this is gameplay wise. So next. Sombra. I think Sombra would be a solid choice, but not like carry potential. I think, so here's the thing about Sombra. She wouldn't be very useful in like, I mean, she would be helpful because obviously, you know, anyone that has a gun and can shoot and stuff will be helpful against zombies. She doesn't have like crazy AoE, like if she comes across a horde, she can't really do much. Hacking zombies won't really do anything. You know, even if you say that she could hack them, like they don't really have mobility or anything, you know? The thing about Sombra that is very useful though is she's a very excellent scout. She's very quiet. She's very stealthy. She's invisible. So if zombies can't really see her, I think she's good. Like, I don't think a zombie would bite something that's invisible. That's just my opinion. I think she'd be great. But I just think that in many other scenarios, she wouldn't be as helpful as other characters. Next is Orisa. I mean, obviously Orisa is like, I don't know, I feel like she would be pretty good. I think she'd be pretty solid. She's an Omnic, so she can't really die. She is big and loud, but the thing is she's like a literal horse, so what's stopping you from riding Orisa around? You know what I mean? Her javelin could be helpful to break down doors and stuff. She would be able to like really tank a lot of zombie stuff. She also has her AoE javelin spin, but also, I don't know that. I actually think that lowers her. I think her ultimate is what brings her down. Hear me out. You're standing next to Orisa and like you have to deal with a mass horde of zombies. She has to suck them in before she like kills them. Now you could say if she's far away from you, her sucking them away from you could be helpful. But if you're standing with Orisa and she has to use her ultimate, you're just sucking zombies towards yourself, and before she pops it, you may get bit. So I think Javelin Spin would go super crazy, but I think her ultimate, because it sucks, it could be really helpful, but I think that could also, I think that brings her down. I'm saying she is very good though. Solid Choice is like really good. Really good. I think that's pretty helpful. Doomfist. I think he'd be less useful. This is hard, y'all, because he has really good mobility. He'd be really good at crowd controlling, but his whole thing is also like meleeing. Like, yes, his fist is made of like iron and stuff. If you have to get close to zombies in order to eliminate them and you're not an Omnic, you risk yourself getting bit. I would not want my allied Doomfist to turn into a zombie. I would get absolutely like curb stomp. Yeah, he would leave everyone. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Doomfist would be helpful. Moira! She would be one of those brilliant minds that would definitely help you solve the apocalypse. I think for Moira's sake, we'll say that her biotic orb can damage enemies. I think she would be, I hate to say it, I actually think she'd be less useful. Her range is pretty limited, so she can't really snipe things. Her biotic orb would be cool, but it still wouldn't be the most useful because it's unpredictable where you throw it. I think she'd be pretty good at escaping and being elusive, but like, imagine Moira fades around a corner into a group of zombies. What is she gonna do? Nothing. I think she'd be lower than Symmetra because actually, I think she'd be lower than Hanzo too. Actually, I think she'd be lower than Lucio too. I think she'd be above Doomfist though. I think the thing about that makes Moira lower than these guys is the walls and the sniper ability of Widow along with her like trap. Symmetra's turret so you can like keep yourself safe and a teleporter. Hanzo can see through walls and has AoE damage. Lucio can speed boost you. Next is Brigitte. I think Brig is gonna be less useful. She's not as big and like big hammer swing as Rein. I think she would be lower than Junkrat. I think Brig is smart, but I think the thing about Junkrat is he does have AoE damage going for him. Melee, Brig is a melee character. Her shield is helpful, but it doesn't have as much health as Reinhardt's shield. I don't know. I just don't think she has as much carry potential as other heroes. Sorry, Brig. Love you, girl. Wrecking Ball. If we're talking about just gameplay and not like lore-wise, he's a hamster, so he's gonna die in a couple years. I think Wrecking Ball would be a hard carry. Hear me out. He doesn't even have to expose himself. He can just roll over enemies. And don't take that the wrong way. He can roll over enemies. He has great mobility. He's tiny, so if you need him to do like a sneak into somewhere and see, I don't know. I think he'd be crazy. Now, obviously, if a zombie gets really close to him and he's not in his big suit, he'd be in danger, but I think he'd be pretty hard carry. He's also pretty smart. He's like a genius. I think having mines is really cool. He has rapid fire guns. He has a lot. We're gonna snooze this ad. So yeah, I think Wrecking Ball would do pretty well. I mean, just considering how he could just roll over a bunch of things and not have to like put himself at risk, I think that's pretty crazy. Now, if we consider Ashe, are we considering Bob is with Ashe? I would say yes. I think with that being said, I think Ashe would be a pretty hard carry. I mean, that's like a 2-in-1, you know? Like, you would never be bored having Ashe and Bob with you. She has dynamite for explosives. She can snipe things from far away. She has a coach gun, which allows her to have good mobility and get things off of her. Also, there's Bob, who is literally like a rapid fire auto lock, massive muscular robot. That's pretty crazy. I think that's really good. Yeah, Baptiste. This is hard, guys, because would Immortality Field stop you from dying from a zombie bite? But I mean, it's only temporary, so I don't know. I don't think Immort Field would really save you because it's temporary. So like you could get bit and he'd stop you from dying for a few seconds, but like, what else are you gonna do? He has good mobility though. He has a cool gun. He can heal things. I think he would be less useful though. I think he'd be more useful than Lucio just for the sole fact that actually no. I think Lucio would be more useful. I think he'd be more useful than Moira though. I think just having a long range gun is always helpful in a zombie apocalypse scenario. Sigma. I don't know, guys. I think Sigma would be like a little bit better than Reinhardt. I think like having AoE, like damage orbs and gravitation control, good mobility. He has a shield, but things can walk through the shield, so that's not helpful either. Well, actually, wait, chat. Okay, I'm gonna make a small adjustment. I think this is so unfair. Maybe this is unfair. Technically, you can melee through shields in Overwatch. I think for the sake of this video, we'll say that you can pass through shields, but you cannot melee through them for the sake of this video. Because like, technically, you could just say that Reinhardt would get melee through the shield and he'd die. So I think for the sake of this video, sorry, I didn't think of that until now. You cannot melee through the shields, so zombies cannot punch through the shields, but for the sake of this, they can pass through them unless you cannot walk through certain shields. That's better. I think Sigma would be helpful. I think Sombra would be better though because of invisibility. Now you could say that the AoE of Sigma being able to slam things would be really helpful, but I don't know. I just don't think he's as useful as these ones. Echo. I don't see why Echo wouldn't be a hard carry. She can pretty much turn into anything. She is incredibly intelligent. She's an Omnic, so she isn't able to get bit. She pretty much has a second life with dupe. She also could technically duplicate any other talented person. She has bombs. She has long range damage. She has flight. She can be quiet when she flies around. I think that's the makings for a really strong character. I think that would make her higher than Ashe and Bob. I don't know about these ones. This is a very soft ranking. I'm not like gonna go super in depth there. Sojourn. I think Sojourn, because she's combat trained, she'd be pretty useful. I think she'd be lower. I mean, you could say these ones are all combat trained too. So like, I think we'll put her higher than Baptiste. Actually, maybe Baptiste is a little bit higher because he can heal people. You can say the same for Moira, but I still think long range damage is better than Moira. I think Sojourn is good. I don't think she has good mobility and stuff. She would obviously be very good at survival and survival tactics. So that does help her, but I think all of these characters have the ability to shoot long range as well. So like, you know, are we saying that all Omnics can be turned? No, they cannot be turned. So that inherently makes them better. Junker Queen. Miss Man would be less useful, and I'm really sad about that. She'd be really helpful, but like, she has to pretty much be in melee range. Now she does have an incredible axe, but like, you always want to prioritize long range effectiveness if you can, am I right? This is gameplay wise, so I think, yeah, her axe would be lower. Sorry guys. Love Junker Queen. I think she still would be very useful. Kiriko would probably be, I think she'd be one of the best characters in the game, if I'll be completely honest. She's busted. We have to take gameplay wise. She is the only character in the game that actually has an ability that cleanses negative status effects. With that being said, Kiriko could cleanse a zombie bite, if you think about it. She can also heal. She also can technically speed boost and teleport. That's pretty crazy. As long as your Curie stays alive, you pretty much can survive the apocalypse, if you think about it. Obviously, she doesn't have the craziest long-range damage, but I think she's talented with her knives. She also could melee things pretty well. She's very mobile. She can wall climb. I think she would be very helpful. I think she'd be one of the most useful characters. Cleansing a zombie bite would be broken. I'm sorry. Like, gameplay-wise, if you had Curie and Mercy on your team, you'd be pretty much immortal. I'm going to build a team after this. I'm going to build a theoretical team. Team of 5, myself included. So we'll be picking 4 characters after this. For fun. Why not? Ramatra. This man would be, like, pretty strong. I think he's lower than Ashe because of the like dynamic duo of Ashe and Bob. But I think like an Omnic that can punch through things, Annihilation would be the strongest thing because as long as he keeps running at zombies, he could technically just like demolish all of them. Long range and short range damage. He has a shield. He can block things. That's pretty strong. That's good. Good. Lifeweaver. Here's the thing about Lifeweaver. I think he's inherently going to be one of the worst characters in this list. It's really sad because I think he's very good in certain scenarios. I think Lifeweaver could be better than Junkrat depending. I think pedal platform is very helpful, but if you're taking gameplay wise, you'd only be able to be on that platform for like what, 20 seconds before it breaks. That's a yikes. Life grip is helpful, but like how often are you going to use like a life grip ability versus like somebody who's invisible, somebody who can freeze things, somebody who can like have like bombs, bubbles, intangibility, wall seeing, you know? Can these people abilities hurt their team? No, because this operates similar to the game. There's so many rules you could operate. Like I could make this tier list like 1,000 times and have different rule sets and it greatly change this list. So that's why it's like really hard. And many of these characters could vary a lot, which, who knows, maybe I'll have a different lists at different times for the same theme. I might do it at some point, who knows. Illari, Larry. We're gonna call her Larry today. Larry is, I think she'd be a solid choice. I think she'd be better than Sigma. I think the thing about Larry is technically she can heal things. It won't heal bites, but still, healing is always helpful. She can snipe things, so that's pretty good. She has a get off me tool, so she can knock things away AoE. That's pretty helpful. She could probably use that to break down doors and like hard to get places. It gives her mobility. She can get on hard to reach places. Also, let's talk about her ultimate. Her ultimate would be insane in a pinch because literally you just sunstruck things and just keep exploding. Girl, that's like domino effect. You would absolutely demolish. That's pretty crazy. I think that actually maybe makes her better than Sombra. I don't know, all these are interchangeable. You can make an argument for all of them because they all have broken things. Listen, they all have broken things. Mauga, I think he'd be less useful. I'm sorry, guys. I think he'd be above Sojourn. The problem with Mauga is he has nice mobility. He's loud though. He is very exposed. Like, he could get bit easily. He also, I mean, his guns are incredibly helpful. Problem with him though is cage fight, which is like his kind of carry ability. Zombies can keep walking into cage fight and he's going to be trapped in there with them. Like, he literally has an ability that traps you with your enemies. I don't think that's very good. When he does inevitably run out of bullets and has to reload. So yeah, I think, okay, Light, what are you doing? Miss Ma'am, stop that. You gotta stop that. I'm gonna get rid of this Light, man, I swear to God. So yeah, I think like he's great. He has great abilities to like damage enemies, but like if you take it, any other character can shoot a lot and shoot long range enemies and catch things on fire. Or I mean, he catches things on fire, but like, ooh, whoop-de-doo, you know? He's gonna sacrifice himself for the team. No, I agree. Absolutely. No, you're so right for that. You are so right for that. Do all these people scream out their ultimate when they use them in the apocalypse? Why not? You have to scream your ultimate to use it. Venture. I think Venture would be pretty damn good. They'd be a solid choice for sure. I think they would be below Sombra. I think invisibility and stealth is just insanely good. Venture has good AoE abilities, tectonic shock, actually a little bit higher. You could say Sombra has better utility for sure, but I think Venture, they are limited with their range, but like the drill is really powerful. Imagine, that's like literally like Chainsaw Massacre stuff right there. Like, hello, a massive drill. Being able to go underground for a few seconds is really helpful. You'd be able to get out of a lot of sticky situations with that. Drill Dash is really good for like mobility. That's pretty good. I think you could make the case that they're a better like zombie killer than Sombra, but I think that you could make the case that Sombra has better utility with invisibility. So either one, pretty good. So we're going to add a tier. This is going to be called My Team. The team includes myself, so it'll be me plus 4 others as a team of 5. My team would consist of easy ones for utility, Kiriko and Mercy. What can I say? Resurrect and Cleanse. You're going to stay alive very well. They both can heal you. Mercy is a brilliant mind that will be able to try to help you find the cure. I think I would take Torbjorn. I think Torbjorn would be insane. Having a turret that he also is really good at repairing things and like technology and all that. So having this mind work with Mercy, I think these two could easily come up with a way to make more Valkyrie suits, that kind of stuff. His ultimate is really good for crowd control. You would be able to sleep peacefully at night because your turret would wake you up if it starts firing at things that are hostile. That's great. Really helpful. Now I get to pick one more person, and this is the tough part. I think I would probably take Bastion. Bastion doesn't have to risk getting bit, so he can put himself in riskier situations. I think Kiriko would probably be somebody that's like kind of somebody who scouts things out, or Bastion. I think Torbjorn would work very well with Bastion because he could repair Bastion if Bastion sustains any damage. I mean, you don't really have any good like super sneaky person. That would be Kiri, and you put her at risk, but also she does have teleport and cleanse. So like, let's say she teleports and someone she gets bit, as long as like she can teleport out, she's good. So like, that's a pretty good list. You have a mixture of like eliminating zombies, protection, crowd control. Mercy can also kill zombies from a distance. She has flight and mobility, really smart, resurrecting, as well as if Kiri dies, as long as you can get in there, Mercy could resurrect her. Crazy, crazy, super nuts. And then you obviously have Suzu, broken. Yeah, Bastion would run zombies over like a tank. Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, Kiri is the cure technically, but wait. Light bulb moment. Kiri literally is the cure. I'm talking about getting the cure when Kiri is literally right there. Oh my god. Crazy. Oh my god, you literally solved it. This tier list is literally useless because Kiri was the cure this entire time. The zombie apocalypse wouldn't exist because of Kiri. Oh my god, genius. But yeah, that's my list, guys. This is it. You could say a lot of these are interchangeable. I'm not gonna like scrutinize over it. This is a fake scenario with fake characters and fake abilities. If you think a character's higher than another, tell me why in chat or in the comments down below. And I'm sure you have a great point. So yeah, if you guys think differently, yeah, I'm sure it works. This is like all based upon opinion. I'm sure any character could be made a case to be like S tier, you know? So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That concludes today's Tier List Tuesday of Overwatch characters' usefulness in a zombie apocalypse. Super awesome stuff. I had a lot of fun making this one.